Harness Players podcast back on the In the Money Media Network. Nowhere else will you find the Harness Players podcast. If you do find the Harness Players podcast somewhere else, then don't worry. We have not been stolen. No one has taken us hostage. And in fact, if we wink a couple of times, you'll know whether we're in trouble or not. But because I don't usually blink, I think we are in our usual abode here on the In the Money Media Network. Can't help that other people might want to try and ride the cash cow that is standard bred racing, and the even larger cash cow, the money heifer that is standard bred racing at Century Downs. We're running back Alberta action this week on the show after tackling the Pick 4 carryover from last Wednesday. $3,000 was carried over into that pool that saw $12,000 in new money. And for a buck, it paid just over $2,000. Certainly, if you followed some of the ideas of a guy like Mikee P, you may have found your way towards that winning ticket, especially if you followed the path of Murray Slough. Even though he had decent coverage through all of the races, he was on to all of the winners of last week's Pick 4. And I'm not going to ask you, Murray, what you did with your $2,000 that you won from the Pick 4 pool. I can see that it went entirely into your wardrobe. People forget that hats are so expensive now. Like what you're wearing on your head, that's probably at least $1,000.
Yeah, roughly, or 35, but thereabouts.
35,000. I mean, you've had those kinds of hits before. But we're going to look at Wednesday night action for August the 27th at Century Downs. We're going to look again at the Pick 4 sequence. No carryover this time, though, right, Murray?
Right, no carryover. It was great last week, like you mentioned. $12,000 in new money came in with our $3,000 carryover, and that was a good pool and I think a good payout. A lot of people probably did single the 2-year-old race like I was advocating, but Mike was saying maybe 2-year-old stretch out in that race. I did harshly eliminate half the field in the last race. I was not wrong there. Ended up being the lowest payout and the favorite in the last leg, Bobby Big Wheels. So that wasn't hard to come up with. It was really the 2-year-old race was the key. I had to stretch out a bit there. Brandon driving, picking up the drive there on the 9-horse and got the job done. That made it pay. And this week no carryover, but the $1 Pick 4, the key, the $1 minimum, I think, guys, generally helps it pay pretty well here at Century Downs. So happy to go over it again with you here for Wednesday night action. It's our last Wednesday of the meet as well. This is our last week of harness racing at Century Downs. So get in on this last Wednesday.
Yeah, because remind me of how the schedule works. They don't immediately go to Century Mile. They're going to be at Track on 2 for a little bit, right? Before they
race the Track on 2 while they switch the tracks over. They have to switch the Century Mile track from the thoroughbred surface to harness. And down here in Calgary at Century Downs, we'll be switching over to start our thoroughbred and quarter horse meet. The thoroughbred start here on September 20th. I think it's roughly around the same time they'll start harness at Century Mile, but at Track on 2 in the meantime. That's right. So we have Wednesday night racing, Saturday afternoon racing at Century Downs harness, and then that's what happens after that, Track on 2 and Century Mile for the harness folks.
And then pool-wise, without a carryover, what do you think ballpark we might be looking at for a Wednesday night Pick 4?
We'd be hoping for 5,000, somewhere around there, which is okay. 4,000 or 5,000. This podcast hopefully helping bump it over that mark, and that's what I would expect.
It's a two-way street. On one hand, bettors love to try and play into those higher liquidity pools, but I would argue in a situation like Century Downs, when the pool is sometimes at that amount, you stand to get a bigger share of it because that just means there's inherently less combinations at play. And so it just takes you being the slightly smarter one to get all of the money, as opposed to, in say, a $10,000 pool, you may end up making less depending on how surprising the outcomes are, right?
Sure, you have a better chance to scoop. And if you do scoop, you're still getting a decent amount of money, or maybe 2 tickets, that kind of thing. With not many combinations covered, that's very possible. It's happened several times here this meet where it has paid the whole pool to one ticket.
Now, before we get into the racing, we got to ask Mike, How's he doing? Because I just brought him in. I realized the last few shows we just kind of roll over him. So I want to give Mike an opportunity to let everyone know how he's doing.
This is like the old school Nahu days whenever it was like the Ray show, and we're going back to the Ray show mostly every week now. It's just I'm here, but like I'm not really here. So that thanks for coming. Here I am again. I had all the winners on the podcast last week, and so if you watch the podcast, you actually did get get paid off of that. So I mean, hey, here I am.
It's okay. I mean, my shrink has said many times that you're here, but also you're not here. So I think you're not the only one alone, Mike, and just the dissociation of this whole experience on the Harness Players podcast. Before we talk about Wednesday night's pick 4, though, Murray, as you mentioned, this is the last week of harness racing just for 2025 at Century Downs.
Correct.
We're at a point in time where when we say it's the last week of racing, we want to specify that they will be back. But
we should mention that, yes.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. But that also means there's some big provincial bred stakes action this week, starting with race number 7 on the Wednesday card. This is the Century Casinos Pace, $97,000 for these Alberta bred colts and geldings on the pace. 7 go postward inside of this event. And just looking at this morning line, Murray, our focus has to come to how worthy do we feel Ruler of Dragons is of our attention? 6-5 on the morning line. He's undefeated from 2 starts, but he's coming into this stakes race off of a 6 scratch. You could argue no better guy to get a horse prime for a position like this than trainer Jamie Gray. And so I'm just curious from your vantage point, how formidable a favorite do you see the 5 being here?
I think pretty heavy favorite. I'd say roughly 3-5, maybe even 1-5. This horse has really looked good in his limited starts. Of course, won his qualifier, 2 straight wins coming out right out of the gate. Jamie got Phil Giesbrecht to drive right off the bat, even in the maiden race. Got himself used to this Custard the Dragon gelding, and he's looked good. Really, the only caveat or slight knock you could make against them is exactly what you said, which is the 6 scratch. But Jamie Gray is a guy that he's not going to race the horse when he's sick. That's why he scratched him. And he wouldn't race him in this Century Casinos Pace unless the horse is completely healthy. So if he is not scratched and he stays in there, which I assume he will, I think he's going to be very tough to beat. He's a very, very nice gelding. I mean, his first start, he just sat out there first over with them and rolled by as he pleased. And that was against some other, pretty highly rated 2-year-olds horses that had looked like they were, ready to roll at first asking off their qualifiers and that kind of thing. So Ruler of Dragons to me, far away top pick here. It's chalky, but I personally would not go against him. I think he will be probably 3-5.
Yeah, that's when you're looking down the page, his form especially stands out, Mike, because, he's able to make moves, he's gaining ground, and you look down the inexperience of everyone else. You really have to go digging into those lines to try and get a sense of what these other horses can even offer inside of a race like this. Were you able to find any kind of counterpunch to the chalk inside of the stakes?
I mean, the favorite looks tough. He's past horses, but that 6 scratch, I'm sure, wasn't anything that the barn and the connections were looking for right now, because when you get young horses like this, they can go off form very quickly. And we talked about this last week, and it is 2-year-olds. There are ones that improve very rapidly, and there are ones that you can go badly very quickly also. So I don't know. I think that Vegas Gangster, that would be obviously the obvious alternative there. I mean, that one has raced pretty well and has come home sub 29 in a couple races. So I do think that he would be the alternative. And depending on if you could get a 4-1 kind of price on this horse, whereas the other horse is 1-5, then yeah, I'm interested in taking a shot against the big favorite there, because there are some question marks, right? I mean, this horse hasn't raced since July the 30th. I mean, that makes a big difference. Whereas, the 4 got a start on August 20th and raced very well, went 56-2, dropped several seconds off the card there. So I know he lacks a win, but that would be probably where I would try to get some value there. And the rest of them, I mean, good luck. Good luck deciding who's going to show up, who's going to improve greatly. It's very possible. They're going for 97,000 here. I mean, these horses are going to get raced. There are some that I think think are going to surprise and step up. So I'm not sure if it's just as easy as the chalk here.
Yeah, and then we have a couple of other races down through the pick 4 sequence that put our minds to this test of trying to balance how whether the favorite is worth even incorporating into our strategies or not. Because again, Century Downs, sometimes a horse can have a really good mile here and then have a inexplicably bad mile the start after. That's part of the gamble in some sense, and also it kind of opens the door for potentially some surprises as we get ready to look into the Wednesday night pick 4 sequence, starting in race number 8. It's a condition claiming event on the pace, $10,000 the purse, with 9 horses going behind the gate, 8 technically directly behind the gate because the 9 disco dancer starts in the second tier. And Murray, before we started talking on this show, we're getting a general sense of how this pick 4 sequence looks. And right off the bat, again, this is a situation where we have to really evaluate the favorites here. Carving Credit, 2-1 on the morning line, was in a spot last time where it felt like if you used him, it was just by default, given how the scope of that field looked. He had some broken equipment. He gets some post improvement. So you could argue there's potentially a case there, but otherwise, Up the Gun has a potential pace advantage on an otherwise tough to read field. So give us your sense of this opening leg in the pick 4.
Yeah, I narrowed it down to 2 horses. I think what you say about Carving Credit is accurate. He looks like you could use him. He's got the rail. He did have, not the easiest trip last time. He had broken equipment. He has some excuses, but bottom line is he's still 1 for 20. Those are the kind of horses I'm going to shy away from, especially if they go off anywhere near 2-1. Those are the horses I want to leave out of my pick 4 if possible. So the 2 horses I narrowed it down to are my top pick, which is the 5 Up the Gun. This horse should be the favorite, probably going to be a little bit lower than Carving Credit in the win pool, and probably a favorite in the pick 4 too. Key thing for him, he's in for a price for the first time. And here in Alberta, when they make this drop into the 10,000 condition claimers, if they're racing at all credibly in the straights, they generally fare very well when they get in the claimer. This horse also has early speed. Mike Hennessy driving for his dad, Rod Hennessy, always a great combination. To me, the maiden race, 3 starts back, the maiden win would probably get the job done in here. Just go down the road. Carving Credit isn't big on passing horses or winning. So I see them probably sitting 5-1. And I have the 5 as my top pick because I think he is going to get the front. I don't think he's going to relent to Carving Credit. The other horse I put in was the 2, Uncle Joe Hanover, because he's kind of the X factor here. Not really sure what we're getting with him yet. This is a horse that they bought privately, brought out to the Alberta, the Sobey barn, Nathan Sobey barn, which has been going well lately. And, they struggled with this horse at first. He just was not finishing his miles. There obviously was some sort of problems with him. But the one time Dave Kelly drove, as you could see back there in early July, the horse did race better, finished 3rd, paced the mile 158 flat. And since then, he's had 2 6 scratches. So they've obviously had to deal with some sickness with this horse. He's had issues. I think the lines don't really show what this horse is probably capable of. And at, 12-1 morning line with Dave Kelly driving for Nathan Sobey back from a good post, I'm going to put this horse in basically instead of the 1. And I don't really like anybody else. So for me, 2 and 5 to start it off.
Could also argue that you're putting the 2 on because your finger slipped when punching and you meant to use the 1 by accident, but you'll at least get the better price.
Better price for sure. Yeah.
I can't say I'm necessarily sold on the angles too, because if you have 2 6 scratches and then you falter in your qualifier, I don't really know how excited I should be for you to go behind the gate. But Mike, this does look like a race that in some ways goes through the 5, because again, we know where he's probably going to be. Hennessy is going to want to put him on the front. And we also know too, because we were talking about this last week on the show, Carving Credit, whenever it comes time for him to, take some pressure, put some pressure, he doesn't really have that deep of a well to actually fight on and engage with horses. And so that seems like another angle that supports the 5 potentially going down the road, unless you see some other surprise here.
Well, I agree with Murray on Uncle Joe Hanover. I think there's things to like there. I mean, if you look, the horse added Lasix back on July the 9th and raced much, much better. I mean, that was this horse's best race in quite a while. Now, the horse got sick and has been laid up, but they qualified. Well, look who this horse qualified against. I mean, the winner of that qualifier was Blue Who. That horse is racing on this card. If you look back to race 5 in this card, I mean, that horse has 23 lifetime wins and has made $100,000. So, I mean, and that's a legitimate animal that he qualified against. This horse got the front in that race. So what's wrong with this horse trying to go to the front in this race? I think the Lasix should improve this one. Most of this race, I mean, it's all 3-year-olds except for one horse. So, these horses are going to get better, I think, as the year has gone on. And I think that he's a price that I'm definitely interested in using in here, especially with this inside post. And given those 2 recent races since this horse has added Lasix, I do think that one is a definite use in this race, especially off that morning line. The other 2 favorites just aren't trustable. The one I didn't like last week in the race that looked like it was easier than this race. So why would you take him here? I don't want nothing to do with him. Up the Gun, I guess I get him, but it sort of feels like a give up in some ways. I mean, this horse just broke the maiden for straight maidens back in July, and then tried tougher spots, and this horse really has been distanced in both of those races. So now you want to take a short price on this horse. I know it's a drop, but I mean, wow, this is really, I think, tough for a horse to get back to that sort of form. I think the 4 out of that same qualifier that the 2 had on August 20th, it's worth the using here also. I mean, he's 2 for 8 this year. I think that this level suits. I mean, this is basically bottoms here. So why not with a couple of horses coming out of that qualifier that are okay? Now, I know the driver's 0%. Maybe he's looking to get a win here to the end of the meet. So I'm interested in the 2 and the 4. I think the 5 could be used. The rest of them, I'm not interested.
I see more appeal in Mickey G, but I'll admit he's probably a B for me inside of that race. But I like that he's coming off of a 6 scratch. But as you mentioned, that same qualifier where Uncle Joe Hanover was level coming for home, this one was at least gaining some ground and was racing okay at Fraser. And, Mike, we've done a lot of shows of Fraser. May she rest in peace. Tyson Jacoby has been good over in British Columbia. So he, being 0 for 66 is not really too big of a deal, in my opinion, because especially a place like Century, it comes down to what horsepower you get, what opportunities you have. And this seems like one, at least 8-1 on the morning line. There's some upside for him because Up the Gun doesn't have this sold the same way Carving Credit doesn't have this race sold. That's the first leg of the pick 4. We're going to move on to the second leg of the Wednesday night pick 4 over at Century Downs, race number 9. This is a condition claiming event, $15,000 the tag, $8,900 the purse for pacing fillies and mares, 8 go postward. Real eyeball bulger when you look at the 3 Electric Amadeus coming into this race, Murray. When was the last time a horse went 152 at Century? Since this one's coming off that 52-mile at track on 2.
Shark Week's done it lots. A few other horses, Ivy Park, but yeah, I mean, it's a big mile. Track on the race is a track on 2. We Century Downs people and handicappers take with a giant grain of salt, right? I mean, it's a mile track, so big sweeping turns, very easy to get around, a different surface. It's central Alberta. They have a different surface on the track. The fractions themselves also, you really have to take with a grain of salt because it's hand timed. The full mile is timed with digitally, but the fractions are hand timed. So if you see a crazy last quarter like 25 and 2 from track on 2, generally you throw that out. But the mile itself, 52 and 4, definitely great, fast. Not going to go 52 and 4 at Century Downs, but a horse I'm going to use. But it is very common that horses come in from track on 2 with scintillating miles and fast times, and it doesn't always translate and they don't always win, but they do often get overbet because a lot of people really do base their bets on final times, especially the last start, right? So this horse coming in off a 152 and 4 mile, going to be the favorite, but I spread this leg because I think this horse, this race is the hardest race, and she is only one of a few mares that could win in here. I took the 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8 because I have a single in the last leg. So yeah, trust me a lot. We mentioned last time we didn't really trust her, but she raced actually quite well.
She was favored too.
What's that? Sorry?
She was the favorite also in that race.
Yeah, that was surprising. I did think Sing a Nightmare would probably be the favorite. We all like Sing a Nightmare. We were right. I said she's going to take an overland trip. That's exactly what she did. And she got the job done for Ryan Grundy. But she's a mare that's a class above what we're seeing here. And since Trust Me a Lot, fought it out basically with Sing a Nightmare and came up second best. No Sing a Nightmare in here. I have to use her this week for that reason, because she really did race quite well last time. I'm using Electric Amadeus. I like Amped Up Annie, as you know, last time. 8-hole just did her in. Terrible trip. Couldn't make up ground. But from the 4-hole, expecting a different story here and a different trip. We all like Daisy Corvette as well. She got completely locked in and buried during the race. I called her locked, blocked, and buried as they went down the backside. She shook loose late, got third, so she raced fine. She still fits in here, I think. And I put in the 8 as well, because this is a horse that won 2 straight early in the meet at a way higher level than this and was competing in the preferred, beat Papalula. And this is the kind of horse where she drops into a spot like this, Dave might just send her like crazy out of the 8-hole, and they might not even see her again. So I left her in as well. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8 for me in a pretty good group of mares, but one that is, I think, pretty evenly matched.
And I think that was the difficulty for me in this leg at the end of the day, because I never go into a race wanting to take as many horses as I feel necessary, just because if you open that door inside of your gambling, you're also opening the door to just dwindling your bankroll over time. You have to kind of exercise that conservative outlook from the get-go. But I understand needing to take a lot inside of this race. How about you, Mike? How sold are you on the chalk, especially since Electric Amadeus, coming off of that massive mile where she's going to get over bet? You look down at those century lines, she's just even against this group. So it feels like she's a natural one to go against.
She's even, but she's quick, right? If you look at last time, 55-2 half. And I realized that was on the mile track. But if you look back to the last century line, went 54-3 here up front, battling for the front. So now you get Lasix back. Some of these other horses that are going to want to go early, they're going to pay a price with her in this race. So I do think that she's quick enough early. And coming off that mile, if you look, the last 3 races, they were on the front with this horse. So I think she's up front again. I don't mind her here. I think that she could end up winning the battle, losing the war. So I want to use her if she ends up winning, taking care of the other speed in here. But then I, like Murray mentioned, Daisy Corvette, we had on tickets last week. Well, this looks like a closer in a race that could very much heat up, especially with Amped on Annie in here, with the 8-horse. They could go really quick early. And I think Daisy Corvette could be finishing. You get 8-1 morning line price. She doesn't like to win very much, but the form might be coming back. So that would be a price that I would want to use in here. So yeah, I get the 3 because a repeat of the last mile, I think, puts her in it, but she's definitely going to be up front. She's going to cause some chaos in this race. So I like her a little, but I also like the 5.
I can find appeals on so many different horses. Like if the 1 I can find an appeal for because, the inside post, I thought she raced fine in that race, Delta Sunrise upset last time. Trust Me a Lot, just being a short price. I don't really know I want to use Amped Up Annie, especially on the post relief. I feel like she's absolutely an A inside of this race. What about a horse, if we're talking pace meltdown, like the 7, Roulette Hanover? 20-1 on the morning line. Giesbrecht having to drive this one because he owns a part of it. He was driving Electric Amadeus at track on 2, but now Logan Gillis picks up the drive from that Lutz trainee that Thomas Miller was driving for the most part. But you look down in that 54-3 front half that Mike was talking about that took Electric Amadeus out of the race. Roulette Hanover finished best of the rest inside of that one. So at least for you, Murray, is this a horse that maybe you might give a second look to if you're looking for this race to melt down?
If it really fell apart, she's like a deep closer. But the funny thing is about that race where they went 54-3 to the half, it was Beach Mist battling with Electric Amadeus, and Beach Mist held on and won the race. So it didn't actually really melt down. It was just a really quick half. But everyone else got so tired that Roulette Hanover passed quite a few at the end. Probably, honestly, should have caught Beach Mist and didn't. But that is the only race on our card that you could say, maybe a close like that. But 0 for 12 in the win column, 7-hole, going to be way back. For me, don't want to include for that reason. They'd have to really melt it down. And even if they did, I think even though Daisy Corvette also light on wins this year, she would be the closer I would prefer. I think she has a better chance of being a little closer. And if a closer wins, I think it would be her.
Next, we're going to go to leg 3 of the pick 4. Then it's race number 10. Some old friends from a week ago in this ASHA, or ASHA, Alberta Standardbred Horsemen's Association filly pace for 2-year-old pacing fillies, $97,000 the purse. This is the debutante co-feature 2, the Century Casinos pace. We were all, well, I shouldn't say we were all, Murray and I at least were slurping down the Faith and Grace Kool-Aid at 2-5 off of that 57 debut, and somehow a different horse showed up on the track, even just in the performance, while Mike was able to catch that 20-1 shot. Brandon Campbell was driving out of the second tier. But Mike, this time around, cat's out of the cradle on Blue Star Aspire as she lands onto the starting gate. 2-1 morning line favorite off of that 20-1 upset. What's your approach inside of this race?
I don't think that the price is going to be that short. I think 2-1 is quite low for a horse that just won at 28-1. But this horse they use for me again. It's just the top connections here. You get a better post. They're going for a big pot. I do think that she's going to be right there on the wire with the 2 again. Why Before Roses, I thought raced okay last time. Another one that is improving, has shown up every time and has got 3 straight checks. Now lacks a win, but I do think the inside post will suit. I'd be probably trying to beat the 8 again. Faith and Grace is going to take a lot of money again. I'm not necessarily sure that they weren't cranked for the last week. I mean, she was just, 2-5 in there. She's supposed to take care of business, and she didn't. Now she's stuck in the 8 post. I mean, that was an easy trip first time out. Now this is going to be a tough one from out here. You got the 7 that's drawn wide that probably could go forward. This is going to be a bang-up race. So I probably would lean on the 2 and the 3. For a price, I might be interested in the 1 here. Terrible Custard moves from the 7 hole to the rail. Did pass horses last time, made up some time late in that race. So this is one that I think could be a little sneaky. That's going to be lost on the board. And if they go at it early, this one maybe could improve greatly in this and upset again. So I'd be really heavy on the inside 3, I think.
And that was an angle we were talking about a lot on the show last week, just given how hard or how difficult coming from the outside posts is at Century Downs. A lot of times, if you're finding horses moving to an inside draw after they try to get into the race from that tough spot, that sets them up for a potentially good effort next time out. So Terrible Custard. I meant to point out last week the fact that they named this horse Terrible Custard, and then the horse raced okay. Like, I'm curious how many people actually what the psychology of if they name a horse because breaking down the horse had an attitude or something like that, and then the irony of, oh, actually Terrible Custard's the best in our barn. Who would have known? But Murray, inside of this race specifically, Blue Star Aspire, morning line favorite, debatable whether she is actually going to play that way. What do we take from Faith and Grace? This was the one that you stamped last time as the standout, and she was standing out of the entire race. She didn't get into it ever.
She went first over and actually, as you could see, gained 8 lengths in the third quarter. So she didn't actually do nothing. But what she ended up being was first over into an incredibly stiff, cold wind that developed during the card on Wednesday night last week. And she didn't like that. And honestly, it looked like she stopped and got last, but she didn't. She got 4th, beaten by 4. Her first overbid stalled. There's no doubt about that. But she did go first up into that cold wind. Not saying that's, the only thing that happened. She should have been better. There's no doubt about that. But that did, I think, contribute to her performance. The fact that it was, a non-winners of 2 race, not going for 97,000, may have entered into it. We'll see. My approach to this race in the pick 4 is to take the 2, 3, and 8 because I think they're the only 3 horses that can win. And therefore, I will move on to my final leg single. I certainly hope. But in betting this race on its own, I'm going to be looking, if possible, depending on how the odds shake out, to go back to the 8. Give her another chance. On my Nahu picks, I did take the 8 on top. My comment was giving another chance because I was so high on her last week and she's 2-5. She goes first up, doesn't race well. When they go for the big money, I still think she's the best 2-year-old filly in Alberta. Therefore, with the 8-hole especially, am I going to get 4-1, 5-1? I honestly think I might, because when Brandon wins with a horse like that and then comes into the 3-hole, everyone's going to jump on this 3-horse. I think the 3-horse is going to be at the very highest 2-1 and the favorite. So I'm going to look to possibly play Faith and Grace in basically a bet back situation at a better price. And we'll see how the trip works out. Dave's going to have to do some work from the 8-hole certainly to figure that out. But as far as win candidates, 2, 3, and 8 in the race itself, I'm looking to play the 8 here, and hopefully she redeems herself.
Well, we're gonna need to cast the sails too to figure out where this wind is blowing, if that's so much of a factor.
When it gets really strong and it's blowing their face down the backside, like a first up horse basically never wins. So it was blowing like that for the last few races last week, and a horse like Bobby Big Wheels just went to the front, kept going. It doesn't really affect those types.
Well, he's got big wheels.
He does.
Big wheels don't stop from no cold wind.
But first up is not the place to be. She was first up in her win there, her debut victory, but it was coming from third, better conditions, didn't have to gain as much ground, a little bit different. So we'll see, but I still honestly have faith in Faith and Grace.
Well, and that's a good note too, because I was sitting back wondering, why is this third quarter like 31 and change for what seems like no reason, but it's because again, like that's one of those things that you can't find in the past performance sheet. And Calgary weather is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like
it was warm when I got to the track that day, and probably 25 Celsius. By the time this race went, it was cold and a freezing cold wind out of the north. So that's Calgary. That's how it goes.
Right. And it's because like it's all plains and stuff like that, which I mean, in America that we call that Tornado Alley because the weirdest stuff happens there. But I was going to also say in agreement why V4 Roses makes sense inside of this spot, because I've seen Starkowski have these types of cycles to get prime specifically for a race like this, and she's coming off of a race where even though the 3 made up more ground because she had to get past the stalled cover and stuff like that, YV4 Roses finished strong, and it's that
passing lane.
Yeah, but
I agree. Starkowski with the young horses, you got to watch for sure.
And again, it's when a horse shows interest at the end, then you're setting them up for an even better start next out. One more race to talk about in this pick 4 sequence. It's the nightcap on Wednesday's card for August the 27th at Century Downs. $4,400 the purse in this claiming $5,000 race. I just realized with the exchange rate, I could probably afford one of these horses.
Jump in, Ray.
Inside of a race like this.
You could own one of these animals.
I mean, $5,000 that American, that's going to be like $4,000.
Maybe
the first horse I ever claimed was a 1,500 claimer.
I understood what both of you said because you said it at the same time. We have 9 horses going postward in this nightcap race that I wanted to just kind of give up on when I was looking at it, because the first time down I looked through, I felt nothing. Second time I looked through, I felt even less. And I don't know how that's supposed to happen because I didn't know there was less than nothing. So Murray, I'm going to kind of lean on you to give me some sensation of anything to glean in this payoff leg.
I sense that the 1 will win for fun, and that is my single. This is a huge drop here at Century Downs. If you're knocking heads with the 7 claimers, they're pretty decent horses. Chase is on the case. Litazor Matus was in there, who's since come back and won in 53. Yeah. Now, just Chad, knocking heads with them, racing okay, throughout the year, couple wins, 3 seconds. Not only drops today, doesn't just drop to the 5 level, drops to the 5,000, shall we say, non-winners of a ham sandwich level. So this is a huge drop. Non-winners 1,200 last 3. So you've got a group here that's obviously struggling. Just Chad not only makes that drop and is just a better horse, gets the rail, has ability to leave right down the highway. See you later, Logan Gillis. He's going to bid them a fawn Wednesday evening. I don't see any other scenario here. I considered Billy Buxton because we know from Fraser this horse is a decent horse. Just racing a track on 2. I'm not sure. It says non-winners of 1. I'm not sure what kind of non-winners of 1 race has Electric Amadeus in it, a 9-year-old mare that's won 20 races. But those races were too tough. And so this in here, you could, I guess, make a case for Billy Buxton. I wanted a single. I need a single. I think the 1's by far the best. I don't like anybody else. So for me, it's 1 with a tiny nod to the 4.
I'm quickly looking. Non-winners of a race since June 16 preferred.
There we go.
That's the class at track on 2. But the last purse had to be for 8,700 or less. But, and here's the kicker, a win for a purse of 6,000 or less was not considered. That's how they classified that race at track. Their track on 2 is innovating how you can define a race to get horses into the box. I mean, Billy Buxton had a tough trip last time. I feel like he's kind of regressed from that Fraser form in some sense. But I saw Mike was nodding his head either in, oh yeah, I remember this horse being good, but I don't know if that means, Mike, in a race where Just Ched does have that class drop, to note that you're willing to take some Billy Buxton stock in the last leg.
Yeah, I like Billy Buxton. You get a big driver switch here. If you look, given Kelly Hort, I think 25, and really just came back. If you look, had a little time off since April, and just no chance last time. I mean, involved in that wicked pace there in the Electric Amadeus race. If you look the race prior, kicked 27-2 back on that track on 2. So, and that was only the second start back. This is the right spot, I think, for this horse. You get the right driver, you get Lasix back. I think a definite use for me. And then Murray mentioned the 1 off the drop. I think a use, also pretty impossible to leave that 1 off the ticket. In other words, I might use as a B as the 3. Nick of Time. This horse came back last time after being off over a month and just finished up okay. Ended up making up a couple lengths in the stretch. Now you get an inside post. I know this horse is 0 for 17 this year and 6 for 122 lifetime, but this would be like a trip kind of horse. Does finish up occasionally, does sort of nibble and gets a lot of shares. But you get Dave Kelly here in the bike. You get an inside draw in a race that the form is really, none of these are really racing very well at all. And the fact that he passed horses last time, made up ground in the stretch. Now we're getting second time back off the bench. That's a horse that I think could add some value to the pick 4. End up, he's definitely going to make it pay a lot more than the 1 or the 4, because I think most of the tickets run through those 2.
I will say I'm probably more convinced on Just Ched now. And looking at this race, Billy Buxton, if he goes forward, I feel like he might not have enough to hold it. Because even looking back at Fraser, when he was losing to Dylan James was a grinding type. And I feel like if you're going to win here at Century Downs as a pace setter, you can't be getting down by grinding types like Dylan James. But, you could also argue Dylan James is of a better class than these horses. Yeah, right. But, at a certain point, like the leaps between classes becomes irrelevant because these horses don't know that they're a 10 claimer or a 5 claimer.
Well, they can't go any lower than this, Ray. So, I mean, I don't know what.
The way Billy Buxton wins is if he leaves out enough to get the pocket and follows right on Gillis's helmet and doesn't let him get away, he could get by in the lane. I think that might be able to open up, though.
There's no passing lane at Century.
There is a passing lane. In fact,
there is a passing lane.
That's where YV4 Roses materialized out of nowhere. And
it's not one of those passing lanes that just shows up. It's one that
there is one. It's just a short stretch, so you do have to leave the inside open. It's just not a lot of time to get through there. A lot more races are won at Fraser, were won at Fraser through the passing lane than here, but there is a passing lane.
And Fraser's is deep too. Not deep in the sense of
wide.
Like the cushion. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like a Harris Philadelphia kind of.
Yeah. This is more like you can only get one bike through there, and it's relatively tight. But it's there. It's been used. YV4 Roses definitely used it last time. That's a good example. But I mean. Hard to go beyond the 1 and 4 here. I didn't want to double the cost of my ticket. My ticket cost $30. I think Brandon will give the 2 a good drive. The horse just really struggles to win. And he's driven the horse before. That horse finishing in the Super, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Sammy Santana, but not for win.
Yeah, the only horse that
carryover too, right, Murray? The last race.
Yeah, I think it's only like $200, but that's correct.
That's $200 more than was in it.
Dead money for sure.
Get it?
Well,
Yeah, 20-cent high five here. It's not a jackpot. I will mention that. It's just a
yeah.
regular super high five. Yeah.
That's 20 cents?
20 cent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, otherwise inside of this race, Nick of Time stood out to me just because this is one of those horses where it's like, if you're going to have a cheap horse, this is the one you'd want to own because he knows how to pay his bills, but he never gets you a photograph ever.
He won last year at Century Downs at 99-1.
There you go.
He was actually 110-1, something like that. Displayed at 99, of course, because we can't show any higher than that. And Logan Gillis drove him that day, but that was the last time I think he won.
But like when you name a horse Nick of Time, do you expect to get up every time? No, like it's a happenstance thing. It just so happens to win in the nick of time, and then it pays for itself down the road. That's all I have to think. You guys had much better opinions, I feel, on this sequence than I do, and that's why we had you on this episode of the Harness Players Podcast. Mike, of course, thanks again for always being here. And Murray, tell us about the last of Century Downs for 2025 and what to look forward to from Alberta.
Right, yeah. Well, this is our Wednesday night card, our last Wednesday. It starts at 6:15 here in Calgary, so 8:15 for you Eastern folks. Then the last card for this season of harness racing is going to be Saturday afternoon at 12:45, 2:45 Eastern. I haven't seen the draw for that one yet, but I imagine it'll be a big card. We've been having 12 or 13 races roughly on Saturdays, so that should be a fun one to finish off the harness season. And then hopefully people join us for thoroughbreds when they start, thoroughbreds and quarter horses on September 20th. The thing I will mention about us that we do differently at Century Downs is we realize that a digital program is just a PDF. It's not the crown jewels, so we give it away for free on our website, and that's even for thoroughbred. Not many thoroughbred tracks give away a free program with past performances and everything, not just the owner's name and the horse's name. A real program on our website for every card, harness or thoroughbred. Just wanted to mention that. CenturyDowns.com.
CenturyDowns.com. There's no reason not to hop in unless deep down you're harboring some sort of hatred or malice or something that you need to reconcile in yourself, because quite frankly, Century Downs, fun place to watch some races, especially if you have the time. It's Wednesday night. What are you gonna do? You're gonna watch House MD? That show hasn't been on the air for 10 years, 15 years.
It's worth watching.
I mean, yeah, but you can watch that anytime. You can watch that on a Tuesday afternoon when you're homesick and you need House MD to come to your house. Wednesday night is for Century. Just this week, though, because then next week it's going to be something else. But thank you for watching and listening to this episode of the Harness Players Podcast. If you're listening, be sure to hop over to the YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the In the Money Media Network. I hope there are things on there that you would find appealing, not just on harness racing, but also thoroughbred racing as well. We have a lot of Kentucky Downs stuff coming to the network because their boutique meet starts this week on Thursday, August the 28th. And of course, Breeders' Cup right down the road. And for the harness players as well, you know, Breeders' Crown is right around the corner too. We're going to have content ramping up come the October, September time. But that does it for this episode. I never know how to end these things.